Why, hello there. Looking for British infantry, Afghanistan and Sudan, 1877 to 1885? You came to the right place. I'm going to give up with doing these. It's just silly. Right, basically, Perry Miniatures, British infantry, Afghan good ass.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I have some figures down there.
Do you get a dog?
Yeah, you get a dog.
You get a dog?
You get a little terrier, yeah.
Aww.
Yeah, I've done this terrier up in the colours of my grandmama's terrier, which was a sort of fawn terrier, which is a cute little thing, little vicious tooth and claw monster, but it looked cute. Yeah, so you're joining in too. Are we joining in too? Hello. Right, so this is the box from Perry Miniatures. We seem to be going through the colonials at the moment, don't we?
Yep.
Seem to be doing quite well with the old colonials. So do we have a command sprue? We have a command sprue and we have normal sprues. Okay, this makes life more complicated. So should we go with the command sprue first, given you mentioned the
Doggo.
Doggo. Where do you get Doggo from? I've heard that before. Normal sprues you get with Perry. Not a fan, don't use them, but who cares? Anyway, right, so this is the command sprue and it's back to front. There we go. And this is the collection of figures you get in the command sprue. Really, you might be wanting to also use one of the normal troops as a party command as well, given the amount of options you get. So we have Doggo, very cute little thing, and then we have the chap with full kit on, presumably the standard bearer at this point. Then we have a officer and a aide. So pretty good collection of figures, really. You got a lot of options. You got a nice drum, which is just awesome. Trumpet, which is slightly more useful. Standard bearer, which is great if you want to wave your flag around and let the enemy know where you are. Then we have pistol in hand, pistol pointing, wavy sword, always a good one.
I haven't got a pointing arm.
I got to the pointy arm yet. I'm getting to the pointy arm, leaving it till last. Then we have wavy hand. Wavy hand's always good.
Got a wave of hand.
That's your sergeant, your wavy hand, maybe a lieutenant, whatever. Then we have a pair of binoculars, which is good. And best of all, a broken arm, or an arm in a sling. So this chap got a heroic wound and has his arm in a sling, which is just great. And finally, the pièce de résistance, the pointy hand. No army is complete without a officer with a pointy hand. So that's pretty cool. We've got a nice collection of bits and bobs, and a nice collection of heads too. Lots of different types of heads, and a nice officer's forage cap at the end there, which is that chap there. So it's nice. It's nice and just nice all over, really. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a decent collection. Then we get on to the actual figures. And we'll go to the back first. We have the rear of the figure has all the nicer straps and stuff, and then you have the whatever that is. What is that? It's not a water bottle.
A satchel.
It's a bit small. Sadly, I mean that's your bread bag. So let's have a look. That's your there your ammunition pouches. Yeah, I don't know. Could be anything. You also have little backpacks, which is cool. And then you have a large amount of rifles. And of course, most of the rifles are firing or pointing. As seen here, they're firing. And are we joining in? Are we joining in? Are we making slimy noises? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yeah. Oh, that's disgusting. Thank you. Sorry. Right.
Again.
Yeah, okay. Right, so we have a various collection of rifles. That's basically all the ones you get in the sprue. Plus the officer there. So that's the sort of stuff you get in the box. Uniform wise, I've gone for 3 different uniforms because there were multiple uniforms. We're using these for the Sudan, so instead of the oh, the box there looks like Afghanistan. Because look, there's one of those silly flat houses. Because they haven't invented a proper roof yet. Yes, they have. Yes, silly houses. Right, so these I'm using for the Sudan. Yes, for the Sudan. Yes. So these are in khaki. The British were actually issued with, originally, they were issued with field grey, which is this colour here. They were all issued with grey uniforms. A lot of the regiments didn't like the grey, and later on they were issued with khaki, which is this one here. Now the British also had red coats, and some of the British troops, 2 regiments, decided to keep the red coats. And one was actually reissued with red coats. They've been reissued with grey, but I think it was a Yorkshire regiment, was issued with red coats instead of grey, because they thought they would be more effective fighting the Sudanese because they wanted to be seen.
Right.
And it's kind of played out. The first 2 battles, not the Anzar, but the Fuzzy Wuzzies, these guys, the Head and Dower, they actually charged the British line, the British squares, and they got into close combat and of course lost, because they're fighting a guy with a bayonet who's had a full meal. But the Hadendower commander pointed out that had he known he was fighting the British, he thought he was fighting these guys in grey, and the grey tended to go a lot lighter in the sun. Sort of in the heat of the sun, you sweated, the dye came out, so you look very much like, if I can get one, which is. So it was quite easy for the Sudanese to mistake these chaps for the white-coated Egyptians, and so, or Sudanese. So they thought they were attacking Sudanese troops, not British troops, and they said they wouldn't have gone in. Right, so basically, when the Anzar attacked the British, the story goes that they didn't know they were attacking British, first off, and lost a lot of troops because of it.
Yeah.
Now, not later on, actually slightly before that, Gordon at Khartoum, he sent 2 gunboats downstream to link up with the British. And these gunboats managed to link up with the British. It's not the same one without all the civilians on. He sent one gunboat down the Nile, and it was stopped off at Berber, and they were all massacred because Berber had gone over to the rebels. He sent these 2 gunboats. Gordon sent these 2 gunboats downstream. The gunboats made it to the British, and the British put a number of troops on board and sent them straight to Khartoum. And these boats were supposed to sail through to Khartoum and garrison the city. I think there were about 200 British troops. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. You're very interested, aren't you? Yes. You're very interested. Oh, you've got a runny nose. Ah, right. Anyway.
Put the camera on him.
Yeah. Anyway. So these chaps sailed up the Nile, and they sailed up the Nile and they reached Khartoum, and there were lots of guns going off, and they thought Khartoum was still holding out, but it turned out the Mahdists were actually shooting at them, and so they turned around and they sailed back. Now here's the interesting point: one of the ships ran aground and wrecked itself.
Yeah. And
all the troops managed to get off this boat and paddle ashore. The other boat tried to pick them up, and that hit a rock and sank. So those troops had to get on shore, so they ended up stuck on a island in the middle of the Nile. In the middle of the Nile, in the middle of enemy territory. And the Nile on one side was fordable, right? Because this is where the rapids are. What are they called? There's a name for bits of the Nile where you have to be careful getting around it. And all the Mahdists gathered on the bank, and they were about to attack the British. And so the British lined up in putting the red jacketed troops in the front. There's about 200 of them, and they all lined up in battle line, ready to receive the Mahdi's charge, and the Mahdi's just didn't charge and wandered away. Because they realised they were fighting British. They thought these guys were Sudanese. But as soon as they realised they were British soldiers, they said, we ain't tattling that, and they left. So there is kind of a lot of truth to this, that the Mahdis were afraid of not necessarily afraid of the British, I think...
Confused?
Yes.
Very confused.
Suddenly you've got guys in British uniform in the middle of the Sudan.
Yeah.
And where have these guys come from? What's going on?
Where else are they?
Yes. And they knew that at that time... Obviously, communication was pretty naff back then. They knew that the British weren't supposed to be getting involved in this war, and the British were actually backing the independence movement.
And now they're in the middle of our territory.
And now they're here to fight us. What's going on? Because believe it or not, Gladstone did actually support the Mahdi at the beginning of the war until Gordon died, and then, they killed an Englishman. Yes, thank you.
How dare they?
So the war went on for years and years. I think by the end of the war, the British had pretty much moved either to khaki, but they would still have had some guys in grey. And I'm not really sure how long the red uniforms lasted. I don't think they would have lasted until the end of the war. I have a feeling that they would have all have shipped to khaki because it would have been easier to supply troops in khaki.
Yeah.
But no book I've read and no website I've read agrees. Some say for definite the British never had red uniforms there, and some say, which I know is wrong because we know they did, and some say, well, only one regiment, which is the Yorkshire Regiment, had them, and then some say that the two regiments had them.
When was the other war?
79.
Does not say.
I'm looking at the Zulu War box and it says 77 to 81. So when did the Zulu War end? It's around about the same period, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's not too far-fetched to say there was some red coats, because they could have been shipped if there's more need for them.
Well, I know in the Zulu War, the only troops in Africa at the time were actually, all the troops in Africa at the time were in khaki. The only one that wasn't was the Welsh Regiment, which was the ones who did all the fight. You know, the ones who got massacred were the guys in red. But the other four regiments were in khaki. Well, the three regiments were in khaki. The only regiment that wasn't in khaki was the actual guys who fought at Rorke's Drift, who fought at Isandlwana.
Yeah.
Just by coincidence, they just all happened to be in red uniforms. They were supposed to be in khaki, and I think they kept the uniforms for the rest of the war on principle. Sort of, look at me, I'm here. And also, it in the terrain, red does seem to be good at camouflage. Not much good in the desert as camouflage. You stick out like someone wearing a red uniform. But yeah, anyway, that's an overly complicated version of the uniforms of the war. So if you're doing late war, I'd say do all khaki, possibly, some in grey. But if you're doing the bit that we're doing, which is the beginning bit, then you will have red. There were at least 2 regiments that wore red, and maybe some other units did actually wear red as well. We don't know, because not a lot of people at the time wrote about it. It wasn't important to them.
Is there a dead person on the floor in that photo?
Yes, there. No. Also, if you notice on various websites, you can buy Scots. You can buy Scots in kilts. For this range, Scots in kilts. Scots never wore kilts in the desert. They had tartan trousers. They didn't wear kilts. Neither did they wear kilts in the Zulu War either. It's a misnomer that Scots wore kilts in battle. Waterloo, you always see Scots wearing kilts at Battle of Waterloo, don't you? Yeah, you buy the figures for Waterloo Scots. Guess what? They're in kilts. Did they wear kilts? No. No, they wore it for dress, uniform. They wore trousers, and they wore tartan trousers. So the troops at Waterloo would have been in trousers.
Were they massacred though?
Yeah, because they stupidly... Because they all died.
Of course, that person
Amazons.
That person was leading them.
They went...
Top hat guy. Big hat. Got shot in the head.
Oh, that Picton.
He was going to die anyway after the battle.
When the Scots Greys went in, they actually carried a lot of the Scots infantry with them. Not just the best troops. Sort of the first company. They rode in with. They actually grabbed onto the sides of the horses and rode right up to the French cannon and were massacred. along with the rest of the Scots Greys. So obviously some of the Scots Greys escaped, but they couldn't take the Scotsmen with them, so they left the infantry there to get killed. That meant that when Picton went in, the Scots that were with Picton's force were not the best troops. The best troops were already dead.
That kind of reserves.
And they all got cut to pieces.
Yeah, no choice but to die there or die in prison, wasn't it?
For him, Picton was actually up on charges for
many things.
Sorry, we're on YouTube, for being naughty.
Yeah.
With a lady. He was facing the death penalty. Yeah. And he got out of being hung, or going on trial actually.
Going to war.
So that's why he wasn't in uniform, because he literally arrived and said, "I'm here to die," and he did. That's why he rode to the head, and he rode to the head of the column, and he got shot in the head. And he became famous for that. He's Picton, glorious Picton. We don't remember him as that disgusting man who did those things. Yeah. He's not remembered for that. That was unfortunate. How did we get on to Waterloo?
Kilts.
Kilts.
I think we're done now.
Right. So anyway, they're the figures, and we've gone over the figures. Obviously, I have a lot more to say about these than I do about the Sudanese and stuff, because there's not that much to say. I could go into huge amounts of the Mahdist revolt, but we're going to do that when we actually do those videos. So we'll do the army videos and stuff, and we'll go into that then. So anyway, that's it. Any comment?
No, that's it.
That's it. Awesome. So it's outro.
If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and comment down below what you think of the British infantry. That's everything from me.
And everything from him. And... yeah, okay. Thank you for taking part.